We're going to record to the cloud. We are now recording. Okay, good morning. We're here. We're working now. All right, we were just starting in child's pose, Lisa. So knees together or knees wide. Erica's been in child's pose for a good 5 minutes now, but that's okay because it's a really awesome pose. So go ahead and we're just finding our breath. Today, we are going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, and that is bravery and courage. So the, what you're doing right now is a brave thing, waking up in the morning. I love how yoga, what we can learn on the mat, we can take off our mat. And so bravery and courage is it's one of those things that I've been living in the last couple months as we've made this move to Texas, and now we're opening this yoga studio. It's been a really interesting and definitely out of my comfort zone process. So, oh gosh, see, it's all this stuff. Here's Acts 4:13 is the verse that we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to have to post it later. That's a bummer, because usually I use the Bible on my phone. Oh, no, here it is. All right, I actually wrote it down. The council members were astonished as they witnessed the bold courage of Peter and John. And now what had happened is they had been in the temple, and they had been speaking about Jesus. And so what was so cool in this Acts 4:13, I love the words, that they were astonished as they witnessed the bold courage of Peter and John, because Peter and John were just normal people like you and me. They weren't, Bible scholars. They weren't anything that, they weren't anybody that should have been speaking with authority. So I just, as we're kind of jumping into this flow this morning, a few minutes behind, just remembering, just kind of thinking about some places that you've been bold and courageous in your life, or some places that you need to be bold and courageous in your life. So awesome. All right, so we're going to sit back onto our toes. So just kind of coming up onto our knees, and we're going to take a second and we're going to stretch out our wrists. So just pushing against the backside of your wrists, because we do a lot of that counter movement with our wrists. This is one of my things I do just about every time I warm up in yoga, just because we do go ahead and twirl them around a little bit. We do so much pressure. We put so much pressure in yoga on our wrists, and it's something we use a lot during the day too. I know my sister's a hairstylist, and so she has some bad wrists. There's a lot of occupations these days that our wrists get a little bit of lack of love, a little too much work. All right, so coming into a nice tabletop position, go ahead and make sure your wrists are lined up underneath your shoulders. Nice straight line there. Your knees are underneath your hips, and you want to be able to have T on your back. So just making sure you have a nice straight back, alignment in your neck as well. And then we're going to just go ahead and roll through a couple of cat-cows. So go ahead and roll and drop your head and exhale. And then on the inhale, go ahead and drop your belly, lift your head. And then same thing. Exhale, raise your back. Inhale, drop your belly, raise your head. And as we're kind of moving out these ligaments and muscles this morning, feel free to add in any extra movement that your body is asking you for. I know I like to just get my hips loosened up a little bit after sleeping. They're a little bit tight. All right, one more. Exhale. And then inhale. All right, so just to warm up, we're going to go ahead and drop those feet down. And we're gonna start on our back. So laying down flat on the mat. Oh, bringing your legs all the way down. We're gonna actually do, we're gonna come up into boat pose. So boat pose can look several different ways. You can just lift your knees. You can bring your hands up with your knees, or you can stretch your legs all the way up to the sky as well. So whichever way is the most comfortable for you. I'm gonna change myself sideways so you guys aren't just seeing my rear end the whole time. Go ahead and find and hold that for 3 breaths, whichever boat pose you can sit in. Perfect. Okay, go ahead and release. Back onto the mat. And then we're going to come into fish pose. So this one, we're gonna lift our elbows, lift ourselves up, and this is just a really nice heart opener. So elbows underneath your shoulders, head back. Try and have like you're holding an orange between the back of your head and your neck. You don't want it to flop. We don't want a floppy neck, we want some engagement. But go ahead and push your chest up to the sky. Look up to the ceiling. 3 deep breaths here. And then very gently release yourself out of that so you don't hurt your back. Come back down to the mat. Good job. And then we're going to go ahead and, if you can, use your stomach to engage and sit yourself up, keeping your feet on the mat. If not, go ahead and roll over to the side. That's fine too. I'm just going to take a nice seated staff pose. And so legs stretched out in front of you. If you need a little bend in your knee, that's okay. A little micro bend is just fine. I am so tight in the mornings. My hamstrings get so tight. My hips get so tight. I'm going to use a strap. If you have a strap, feel free to grab it. If you don't want to use it, that's totally fine. I know in the past, before I had a strap, you can use one of your husband's, bow tie, not bow ties, but ties. Anything long, rope-ish is going to work. But if you are using a strap, go ahead and wrap it around the bottom of your feet, right across those pads underneath your toes. If you're not, just stretch as far as you can. You know, if this is, we're trying to keep our alignment in our back right now. We're trying not to hunch over. So finding that straight back, and then just taking a deep breath in to get tall. And then we're going to pull ourselves just a little bit forward. But again, maintaining that alignment in our spine. So from our tailbone up to the top of our head, we really want it to be in a straight line. We're going to take one more big inhale. And when we exhale, good job. Trying to maintain that alignment. And then one more time. Inhale for length, exhale for that depth. Good job. And then go ahead and release. We're going to reach down to our toes, and we are going to fold out this time. Go ahead and let your head drop. And just feel that nice, long, deep stretch this first time. Take a couple of deep breaths here. Great job, you guys. And then we are going to do some hip openers. So you guys doing okay? All right, nobody's piping in, so I'm assuming we're all well. Do a couple of hip openers. So first one is seated pigeon. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our left foot, plant it on the ground, bring our right ankle over our left knee. Ooh, feeling that this morning. And just sit into that, trying to maintain that alignment in your spine, but no real science to where your hands are. Just find, you're wanting to feel the stretch right in here. We're opening up that side of our hip. So just wherever you feel that, we're going to take a few deep breaths here. And with yoga, they recommend that you breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your nose, because we're trying to maintain the energy that we're building up. And when we breathe out of our mouth, we actually let out a lot of that heat. All right. We're going to stay on that right leg still. And this time we're going to come into a half lotus position. So go ahead and bring, fire log actually. We're going to bring our right ankle, stick it over our left knee. And then the goal here would be that your right knee would actually touch your left ankle. But as you can see, I don't know that that's ever going to happen with me. I have such tight hips. But this feels really good. And so get to a point, you guys can just breathe as I'm talking here, where you feel some stretch, but you don't want to feel any pain. If it actually starts to hurt, if you're feeling any like bone on bone movement, make sure that you back off a little bit. You know, being in yoga is so much about finding that edge. Same thing with courage, I think. You know, there's being recklessly stupid or recklessly stretching yourself too hard. And then there's leaning into that discomfort for growth. Okay, and then we're going to stack those knees over for cow face. So your knees should be right on top of each other. I call this cow face because there are two little cow ears right here. Take some deep breaths here. Really just letting your body receive that stretch and letting those ligaments just loosen up a little bit. All right, one more deep breath. Good job. And then we're going to come into the half lotus. So full lotus is like when you see the guys on the cartoons that have, you know, both their feet up in their hips here. If you are capable of doing that, please feel free. On my best days, I can. This early in the morning, not so much. So, but it's good to practice here. Get our hips open. Good job. And then we're just going to switch sides. So go ahead and planting that right foot on the ground now, lifting your left ankle over your right knee. And again, just finding by moving your right foot around where that best stretch is, you can kind of wiggle your hip around a little bit. Taking a couple of deep breaths here. And again, feel free to have any music you guys want to have playing in the background. If you're enjoying the silence, it's great too. Maybe one of these days I'll get it figured out, but I know it's a tricky thing with licensing and stuff. So play the music you want. All right, good job. And drop down to fire log, stacking that left ankle over your right knee. Whew. Left knee over your right ankle. This is also a fun new experience because where I'm recording is right here and I can't actually see it very well. So it's that whole space of like talking to you guys when I really want to look down here and see what's going on. But as I can see in the camera, it looks weird because it looks like I'm just talking to the floor. So good job. We'll come to cow face. But we'll get it all figured out. It'll be a video recording extraordinaire here soon enough, I'm sure. All right, sitting up tall, finding that length in your spine up through the crown of your head. Good job. And this is one of my favorite sequences to go through with my hips. When I do it really regularly, my hips feel so good. All right. And then last one, that half lotus on the other side. And it's interesting as you really start working through different yoga poses, how opening up your hips is such a precursor to being able to do a good forward fold, you know. And so a lot of these movements that we're doing help each other out, even if they don't seem like they're necessarily directly correlated. All right. So we're going to go through 3. Go ahead and release your lotus here. 3 sun salutations, and then we're going to do a little bit more of some active practice on the mat. So go ahead and come to the front of your mat. Let's see where I can see you guys. All right, good job. All right, so finding that nice strong mountain pose. So again, rooting your feet into the ground. We always want to start with our rooting. We always want to start with where we're planted. And then working our way up, tucking in that tailbone, sucking in our belly button, bringing our ribs together, shoulders back, and then our chin parallel with the mat. We're going to inhale, bring our arms high. Take a nice deep breath here. And actually, let's go ahead and lean over to the right. Inhale, bring your hands high again. Lean over to the left. Exhale. Inhale, arms high. Exhale, let's go ahead and take a nice big swan dive and a forward fold. Take a deep breath here. I know we did our staff pose, but just feeling this first stretch in the morning. All right, inhale, come up to a halfway lift. Exhale, plant those hands on the mat. Step back to your plank pose. If you want to drop your knees here, feel free. But go ahead and lower yourself to the halfway to the mat. All right, we're going to come up for a upward facing dog. Feel that nice stretch in your lower back. Flip those toes over, and then we're going to go ahead and lift to our downward facing dog. Since this is our first one, go ahead and walk it out. My hamstrings are so tight from Monday, from that flow we did, Erica. All right. Then good downward dog. Push that chest back to your knees. A couple of deep breaths here. Try and get your heels toward the mat. They don't have to touch the mat, but that's where they should be moving toward. Then on the inhale, go ahead and walk forward. Exhale, deep forward fold. Inhale, arms high overhead. Exhale, lean the. Inhale, arms high. Exhale, lean to the right. Inhale, arms high. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant those hands and step back to your high plank. Inhale, chaturanga push up to your up dog. Exhale to your down dog. Inhale, walking forward. Exhale, forward fold. Last one, ladies. Inhale, arms high. Exhale to the right. Inhale, arms high. Exhale to the left. Inhale, arms high. Forward fold. Halfway lift. Planting those hands, stepping your feet back. Chaturanga push up. Dog. Down dog. Good job. Go ahead and drop your knees. Come to child's pose. Stretch out those fingers. Walk them to the top of your mat. Take a couple of deep breaths here. You ladies can stay there for a second. So talking about bravery, one of my favorite stories that I always share is that when Jeremiah and I went skydiving. Oops. All right, let me see if I can get me back. There we go. Jeremiah and I went skydiving, and I got it for him for a birthday present. And the whole trip, the whole skydiving trip, we went up to Canada when we were living up in Bellingham. And I thought it'd be cool. I thought it'd be fun. So I signed myself up to go with him, right? Well, it seemed like a great idea. Went through a 4-hour class, and then all of a sudden I'm up in the airplane, and I'm like, how in the heck did I get here? Like, what am I doing up here? How am I jumping out of an airplane right now? Like, I just put all the motion into action, and then realized what I had actually put myself into. So much so that the teacher had to grab my face as I was hanging, ready to jump, and ask if I was okay. And in Canada, you don't jump tandem, you jump by yourself. They just throw your chute out for you. And so I've used that analogy oftentimes in my life now when it comes to being courageous. One of the ways that I do brave things is that I just keep walking forward, right? Think about Peter walking out of the boat and just kind of the bravery he had to step out. And then when we start to look at the wind and the waves, or in my case, I started looking at the fact that I was 3,000 feet up in the air. That's when we start to kind of falter. And, so I just, thinking about that in your life, with your bravery, with your courage, and where you need to be brave, what does that look like? Where do you need to just walk forward? All right, so go ahead and come on up into a seated staff pose, like I am here. We are going to go ahead and inhale, take our arms high. Exhale into that forward fold, grab your toes. You can round your back. All right, and we're gonna bring our hands back behind us. We're gonna come into an inclined plane. So what this is like is basically like a reverse tabletop. So go ahead and plant your feet. We're gonna lift our hips and kind of play around with where you want your hands to be. If it feels more comfortable, have them pointing forward. That's okay. If you want them pointing back, that's all right. We're gonna lift here, try and maintain that alignment so again, you're looking at the ceiling. Couple of deep breaths. Okay, go ahead and drop your hips. And then we're going to, I'm gonna turn towards you so you can see this whole little flow we have here. We are going to bring our left foot folded in, right leg out wide. Go ahead and reach down for that right foot. Good job. Couple of deep breaths here. And then if you can go a little bit deeper, we're going to bring our arm overhead, our left arm overhead. We're going to try and bring our head down to our knee. This is not in my practice, but maybe you guys are more flexible. We're all working towards, which is great. All right, and then sitting back up, bringing your legs wide into a seated open A. A couple deep breaths here. Really feeling that stretch. And then we're going to bring our right leg in. Just right now reaching down to our left leg. Taking a couple of deep breaths. And then reaching our right arm over. All right. And then back to that seated open A. Great job. This time, we're going to walk our hands forward. So it's getting a little bit deeper in that seated wide legs position. I'm grabbing my carpet here to help me pull forward. Seated open A is probably one of my least favorite yoga positions in the world. I usually skip it, but it's such a big part of this this particular flow. Okay, now again, legs wide, we're going to reach down without bringing our left leg in and grab that right foot. And my alignment is always so wonky on this. Bringing your left arm over. Great job. We're going to switch sides. Just grabbing that left foot. Ugh. And then again, bringing that right arm over. Good job, ladies. All right. And then bring your feet back together. Go ahead and shake out your hamstrings there. And then just sitting up tall, finding that alignment, finding those sits bones underneath your bum there. Arms up high. Stretch, stretch, stretch. And then reaching down and fold it out, letting your head hang low. And just feeling how much deeper we can get into this stretch compared to the first one we did this morning. I always love that feeling. Okay, and then go ahead and release. We are going to come over onto our hands and knees into, actually just under our knees, into camel pose. So there's a couple different ways to do camel. We can either just place our hands right, kind of where if you were to put your hands in your back pocket, squeeze your elbows together, and then you can just lean back. It's a great camel pose right here. Again, keeping the engagement in the back of your neck while you look to the ceiling, maintaining that alignment. If you've got a little bit more bend in your back, you can do a couple of different things. You can bring your heels up, stretch that arm back, other arm back, and really get a nice good stretch here. Or you can even drop your heels down and come back all the way. See, back bending is one place where my practice is a little more advanced. So we all have different spots of flexibility and strength. All right, then come out of that the same way that you went in. Good job. All right, now this one's a little tricky. I want you to be careful if you have knee issues. So we're gonna come, I used to sit like this all the time when I was little, is how I explained it. We're gonna bring our heels out on outside of our thighs, basically. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here, but we're sitting in like knees out, feet out position called hero. And then we're going to recline back into what's called reclining hero. So if your knees aren't killing you, go ahead and do this. If they are, just go to a simple seated or sit on your knees. And then we're just gonna lay back as much as you can, gently, slowly, remembering your breath. Elbows down first. And then if you can, walk yourself all the way back.
No, I can't do that.
don't hurt ourselves. More people injure themselves getting out of yoga poses than they do getting into yoga poses. So remember that as you guys practice. And then, again, if you have, oh, you know what, actually, let's go ahead and do a quick child's pose to really kind of counter stretch all that back bending we've been doing. Couple of deep breaths here. Good job. Back up. Bring your feet back around in front of you. And I'm going to go for my strap again. And if you don't have a strap, it's okay. You can do this with your hands. But we're going to lay back and have some nice, nice deep stretching with our legs. So laying back, if you have your strap, if not, just, it's called legs up the wall. So even if you want to use a wall, if you're next to a wall, you can do that too. But it's just like our seated position that we've been doing, our staff position that we've been doing. Same posture for our body, just a different place where gravity is pulling on us. So again, if you need a little bend in the knee, that's totally fine. A little micro bend is really good. You don't ever want to hyperextend back the other direction. You want to keep a little bit of some bend there. Right. Now we're going to drop our left leg. We're going to keep that right leg high. And if you have your strap, go ahead and walk it up. If you can do this with your hand, that's great. If you're just using the muscle of your leg, if you need to grab down here, that's fine too. And then we're going to actually go ahead and open this up to the right and drop our right foot down to the floor. If you have a strap, this is a nice yummy stretch right here in our inner thigh. So for bravery, like I said, we've been walking through this this brave place where sometimes Jeremiah and I look at each other and we're like, what the heck are we doing? Go ahead and bring your foot back up high. Like, what? How are we opening a yoga studio? Like, when did this become a thing? Go ahead and switch feet. Are we making the right decision? Start looking at the wind and the waves and the money going out to get a studio where we want it and the time commitment I'm going to have to make. And we're putting our kids, give yourself a nice big stretch here, putting our kids in school. So we've been homeschooling for the last 4 years, 5 years. And go ahead and drop that left foot down. So lots of changes. And it's easy to go, geez, how did I get here? Just like when I was sitting in that plane. And our focus right now, our main goal is just keeping our eyes on Jesus and following those steps forward and not paying attention to the wind and the waves. All right, left foot back up high. Good job. Okay, go ahead and release. All right, and then we're gonna bring the bottoms of our feet together. And like, it's called reclining bound angle, but when we were little, it was called, you know, like the butterfly legs. We're gonna do this while we're laying back. If you wanna give a little bit of extra weight to your inner thighs with your hands, feel free to do that. Just take a few deep breaths here. We spent a lot of time on our mat today, not necessarily being super active after those sun salutations, but did a lot of muscle work, a lot of joint work. Right, and then one of my other favorite poses, bringing those knees back together, closing your legs like a book, and then we're gonna do some happy baby. So go ahead and grab the outsides of your feet, just pull really nice into those hips, and then give yourself a little back rub, rolling back and forth on your mat. And stretch out your legs, wherever you need a little bit of movement. Bring them together. Taking some time here. Good job. And then go ahead and gently release that. I'm going to give you guys about 10 seconds, maybe 30, to just stretch out anything else that you are feeling like you need to stretch out this morning. If you're needing any twists, give yourself a twist. If you need to stretch out your arms, go ahead and do that. Just remembering to breathe. Good job. And then go ahead and bringing your feet back to the mat, arms down at your side. Time for my favorite pose, Shavasana. Love this spot. Let you guys relax there and relax. And Shavasana is important, not just because it's a nice relaxing pose, but it actually helps your muscles just kind of settle after all that movement and remember. They start to burn in their memory everything that we just did. So Shavasana is actually a really important part of the physical side of the flow, not just the mental side of the flow. But as you sit and just kind of let everything that we just did with your body kind of sink in, and remembering to breathe, breathing in, breathing out. I'll read our verse one more time. Acts 4:13, the council members were astonished as they witnessed the bold courage of Jesus. So just some questions to think about. Focus on one of them or all of them as we sit here in our final pose. Where are you needing to be brave? And are you jumping into something or out of something? And what is in your way of doing that brave thing? Maybe the bravery and the courage isn't speaking to you today, and maybe there's something else that God has on your heart that you just want to sit and ponder with him while you are relaxing in this final pose. And I just encourage you. I'm going to leave you guys here and say thank you. Close with a prayer, but please feel free to stay on your mat as long as you want after this. All right. Father, thank you so much for this beautiful practice this morning. Thank you for these women who were brave enough to get out of bed and do what's best for them, which includes connecting with you and connecting with themselves and taking care of their temple, taking care of their body. And God, I thank you for these women. I thank you for the women who choose to join later. I pray a blessing over each of their days as they go forth, that they do the brave thing, that they have courage, and that you just stay in front of them as they walk their paths of this life. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. Thanks, ladies. Have a great day.